Yeah, guys, I'm a little late to this video. Mexico got free healthcare, and a lot of people from America are like, what the hell? Why we ain't got it? How Mexico got it? You know what I'm saying? Real talk, but listen.
Hype me up. Hype me up.
I know I be begging for them hypes, man. Felicia begging ass. You get what I'm saying, bro? But thank y'all for 50K. That was pretty cool. 50,000 people, that's a lot of people, bro. Let's get into this, dude.
Mexico is getting universal health care in 2027. Mr. Trump wants the average U.S. citizen to pay a $30,000 deductible for the family. Something seems off.
Let me tell y'all a little bit something about that Trump, bro. I don't like Trump. I really just, when I listen to him, dog, I get mad because I'm like, why are people so stupid? So stupid to put that man in office, bro. Like, dog, common sense tell you he was going to do the opposite of what he said he was going to do, bro.
Ah, what a beautiful morning. So grateful that Trump got in office. Life is going to be so much easier again.
A few moments later.
So I just got the quote from the dentist in Mexico I've been looking to go see because, no offense to my current dentist in the United States, I love him. He does a really great job, and I wish I could go to him. I just can't afford dental care in the United States.
Own the libs. Are you winning yet? No, because you played yourself. These are the females who lack the spine and the courage to step into a private voting booth and vote to safeguard their own rights as women. They're so weak that they actively participate in their own downfall, allowing men to use them as tools to strip away their own rights and help.
Yeah, but who all them black folks is in the background? Look, all right now, you down for the brown? I'm talking about. But no, dog, a lot of women who are MAGA, bro, they being pick-me's, bro. That's all. They trying to sound cool to whatever dude that they trying to impress. They husband, they daddy, friends, a guy that they like, whatever, bro. Like, come on now. There's no way, as a woman, you listening to Trump and you picking up what he putting down, hearing about all the sexual allegations he got against him, sexual harassment, allegedly raping kids in the Epstein file. Man, come on, really? Let's make it make sense, bro.
What do you mean Mexico can afford to give all 120 million of its citizens universal health care?
Right.
Starting next year. And here we are putting millions of Americans in lifelong debt because we need 1.5 trillion to fund the Pentagon. We have Canada to our north who has universal health care. So it can be done. And they are continuing to make a choice to not give that universal health care access to us. Are we great yet?
It's kind of sad, bruh. But you know what it is? Trump worked for his wealthy donors. Them people that gave him 150 million. The people that gave him 90 million, the ones that gave him 30 million, that's his boss. Not you people begging for universal health care. Get your crumb snatching ass on somewhere. That's what it is. We know what it is. He don't work for the American people. He worked for Israel, Russia, and all them places, bro. And his wealthy donors. That's who he, and himself, because he definitely going to enrich himself. And then back to this war shit, bro. They talking about 1.5 trillion for the budget on defense for 27. And I'm thinking to myself, I heard that the war in Iraq was supposed to cost $200 billion. By the time it was all over and said and done, it was 5 trillion spent. Nigga, they saying we already spent like 200 on the war so far. Man, can you imagine if man, bro, I don't even want to think about that shit, dog, because all this money could be spent on healthcare.
Hey, America, Mexico now has universal healthcare. Yes, Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, has promised every Mexican citizen that they will get universal health care. We could have had universal health care 20 times over before Trump spent the money on crypto and everything that he has in his pockets from the American people and his war.
Hey, yo, I heard that if you dropped $10,000 on Trump's meme coin, that shit would be worth $450 today. You talking about duped.
But Mexico now has full universal health care. They don't have to pay for health care anymore. This is ridiculous. Almost the entire world now has universal health care, and we're still paying big insurance company money that is unaliving our American citizens because they choose whether or not we can have health care or we can afford to get that health care. But the president of Mexico just gave it to everybody in her country. And I not gonna say it. Anyways, yes, while our president destroys other countries and uses all our money on nothing except for suing people putting tariffs on us so that we have to pay those tariffs, because those tariffs are the stuff we pay. And now Mexico has free healthcare, and we have to pay out our ass or be denied.
I ain't gonna lie. At this point, bro, if you still MAGA and you supporting Trump, man, you just need to shut your dirt ass up. Straight up. Cause dog, you speaking nonsense and you clearly don't give a shit about data. You clearly don't give a shit about facts. And you're the type of person who's so delusional that you will just eat any and everything Trump tries to force feed your dirt ass. It is what it is, dog. You know what I'm saying? But not only does Mexico get the free healthcare, dog, they also got a budget for the kids that need school uniforms and supplies too. So now your kids are covered with health and they're covered with school resources.
You know what we don't have here in America is we do not have the ability to go to the doctor without worrying about how it's going to hurt us financially. What if getting sick didn't mean getting scared about money?
I swear.
Right now in Mexico, something quietly powerful is happening. A government is trying to build a system where no matter who you are, no matter where you live, you can just walk into a hospital and just get help. There will be no forms asking you what job you have. There's no panic about bills showing up later. And there's no choosing between your health and your rent. Just care. For years, people in Mexico technically had access to healthcare, but in reality, it depended on where you worked and where you lived and on what system you were stuck in. Some people got great care, others got left behind. And now they are trying to fix that. They're building one connected system, one place where your medical history follows you, one standard of care across the country. And the goal is if a child gets sick in a small town or someone needs treatment in a big city, they get the same chance. And look, this isn't perfect yet. It's going to take years, but there will be problems. But that's really not the point. The point is this, that an entire country is making a decision that healthcare isn't a privilege. It's something everyone should be able to count on. And whether you agree with how they're doing it or not, there is something undeniably powerful about this idea. Because the moment that people stop asking, can I afford to get help? And then they start asking, where do I go? That's when everything changes.
Yeah, if y'all saw the look of disgust on my face, it's probably because I was thinking about like the comments that MAGA people be leaving in videos like this. They be like, man, shit, it's free, but you know, everything come with a cost, son. For real, son. Dirt ass up, man.
The U.S. is 5 times wealthier than Mexico. So how come Mexico can afford free universal healthcare and the U.S. cannot?
Globalization is creating a world which every country is getting a universal welfare state, except the United States and China. The past 30 years of free trade and capital mobility has created a very skewed division of labor. China became the center of global production. The United States monopolized global finance and technology. In other words, America is responsible from 0 to 1, and China specializes from 1 to n. In that rule, not only countries like Mexico, but even advanced economies like Japan and Germany will find it almost impossible to compete directly with these two juggernauts. Facing economic stagnation, their only recourse was to lean harder on the welfare state to preserve social stability. For China and America, if either of them wants to remain at the top of the global hierarchy, they cannot afford to soften the market discipline. Once a welfare state becomes deeply entrenched, it creates both a safety net and political constituency. People become less pressured to stay in the rat race, and the welfare provision will demand an ever greater share of the economic resources. That is a geopolitical surrender. So this is an issue which both Washington and Beijing will eventually have to confront. Because if the end result of the US-China competition is that the rest of the world falls into permanent stagnation, while China and America are stuck in ever crazier social Darwinism, then that is indeed a very bleak future for humanity.
Wow, he broke it down from a philosophical standpoint.
Somebody 5 times wealthier.
I like this comment that I'm looking at. Somebody said generating revenue for the purpose of generating revenue. Theoretically, you don't need universal free healthcare. You could just make healthcare more affordable. But I guess even that is a surrender. And then someone commented and said, indeed, by the standards of social Darwinism, this is why some social democrats in China suggested that China is East Germany with a market economy. That's crazy, dog. That is crazy. Oh, man, bro. Hey, bro. Bro, that gotta be some funny shit, dog. You was one of them people with your dirt ass. You said, look, I'm gonna go ahead on and vote for Trump because he gonna build that wall. Nah, Mexico gonna get the wall built, but it's to keep your sick ass out. Oh, man, that's crazy.
Americans can't have shit
at all.
Mexico has universal health care. Canada has universal health care. Every developed nation has universal health care. Remember, a shithole country is not a developing country that can't provide for its citizens. It's a country that's already developed, that has all the resources in the world and chooses not to provide for its citizens.
Well, you know what? That's crazy. You know, the Senate and, you know, Congress, they're dominated by the pharmaceutical companies. The companies are basically lobbying them to not give this shit to us. It's like, hey, bro, look, we're going to keep looking out for y'all. Y'all keep looking over us. You know what I'm saying? We're going to line your pockets so we don't got to give these peasants free health care with their dirt ass. Look, I'm somebody's child, bro. I don't got time for this, dog. I want free health care. Health care expensive.
Well, it looks like Mexico might be paying for that wall after all. But it's not to keep Mexicans out of the United States. It's to keep Americans out of Mexico. President Claudia Sheinbaum is decreeing that they're going to have universal health care for 120 million residents of Mexico. Yeah, you heard that right. The country that Americans, that MAGA wants to shit on all the time, talk about how they're bad hombres and horrible people and all these terrible criminals are now going to be a country that has universal health care. Meanwhile, in the United States, we're cutting our rural hospitals. You're not going to be able to afford medications. Premiums are going up. It's going to be an absolute mess. So we can pay for a trillionaire to have another yacht. Mexico is moving into the future and having universal health care maybe as soon as next year. Yeah, there are some wrinkles to work out, but they're moving forward with it. So expect that wall, but it ain't to keep the Mexicans out. It's to keep the Americans out.
Hey, yo, when you saw that look of excitement on my face, that was because I thought about it. Didn't Trump say that Mexico was going to pay for the wall? Is this what he meant? Is this what the nigga meant when he said Mexico's going to pay for it, bro? Yeah, we going to pay for it, but it's going to be on our terms to keep your dirt ass out. That's cold-blooded right there, dog. I'm serious, man. I'm so damn serious.
We have some groundbreaking news coming out of Mexico. The president of Mexico just announced universal health care for all 130 million Mexican citizens inside of Mexico. Now, this is planned to be a phased rollout where they're going to issue a government health card and get everybody registered and integrated into the system so that all 130 million Mexicans can go from one healthcare system to the other effortlessly. And by 2027, the universal healthcare will eventually take place. Now, the interesting thing about this is Mexico is one of the poorest countries in the world when it comes to per capita, though they do have some wealthy neighborhoods and areas. The majority of the population is under the poverty line internationally. And if they can do this in Mexico, the question then is, why can't we do this in the United States of America? What do you guys think about this? Drop your comments down below. Stay safe and stay free.
Hey, man, look, I said that's that white people shit, but it might just be that American shit, dog. Americans think everywhere poor that ain't poor. Like, that ass, like, the average American, when they think of Africa, they don't think of Nairobi, Kenya, right? They're not thinking about these places that have nice skylines, skyscrapers, tech, areas and things of that nature. They think of people drinking out of mud holes and flies swarming around, swollen bellies and ashy ankles and feet. That's what they think of. And when they think of Mexico, they think of poor shit. But, you know, let's figure this shit out right now, because I heard through the grapevine that Mexico really not all that poor. All right, y'all. So Mexico GDP, about 2.0 to 2.1 trillion. Global rank, 12 to 13 in the world. Wow. It's in the top 20, y'all. Emerging upper middle income economy. That's the classification. Mexico is a top 15 economy globally, which is strong, but it is still considered developing compared to the richest countries. Yeah. GDP, about 29 trillion for America. Global rank number 1 in the world. And we have what? So in other words, y'all, Mexico have about 100-something million people in their population. We got 300 and what? 30 million. So with that being said, money coming in versus the people in this country is greater in America than it is in Mexico. And yet they still figured out a way to give them people free healthcare. Well, priorities, you know, when we spend money on dumb shit like wars that we don't need to be in, you know, it is what it is.
The US is 5 times wealthier than Mexico. So how come Mexico can afford free universal healthcare and the US cannot? Here in the US, when we get sick, we often wait and hope the problem goes away because healthcare is so expensive. But if healthcare is free, we don't need to play that Russian roulette. We can get treated as soon as something is wrong. And that saves the healthcare system a lot of time and resources. It's a lot easier to treat stage 1 cancer than stage 4 cancer. And that is why Mexico and Cuba and Canada and all these other countries can afford free universal healthcare because it is cheaper and more efficient than privatized healthcare that came before. Wow. So here in the US, we do have enough money for free universal healthcare. We just choose to spend our money bombing children in the Middle East instead.
Yeah,
that's not right.
They
and
love
if
that.
you want to help my campaign fight for free universal healthcare in California, go to oliverma2026.com to get involved.
I ain't gonna lie to you, dog. At this point, bro, I'd rather see anything in office other than, you know, the Sons of Columbus, bro. I swear.
So millions of Americans are now moving to Mexico after this. So the Mexico's president has decided to roll out universal health care for all Mexicans. So now around 130 million citizens will begin to enjoy free health care for next year. That's literally half of American citizens, right? So why can't we have it? That's insane. But
And
check
they have
this
a
out.
smaller GDP
If she
than us.
keeps this up, she might have to build a wall to keep the Americans out. Now that is insane, and the fact that we even have that on our minds, like that could be a possibility, is just so telling that like that's insane that they have better benefits than us. See, now Americans are going to go to be illegals in Mexico. So now it's gonna basically reverse. So yeah, guys, what do y'all think about this in the comments? That's actually insane. And people are just pointing out Americans seeing both Canada and Mexico get free healthcare literally above and below, and we're literally supposed to be like the top country or whatever. And we don't have.
Hey, bro, that's gonna be some funny shit when undoubtedly someone from the MAGA cult is stupid enough to go down there with a MAGA hat on and expect top tier treatment and service, dog. You know they love to complain and play the victim when things are not going their way. You get what I'm saying? Could you imagine a MAGA supporter trying to scale a wall that Mexico built to keep their dirty ass out, bro? That's wild.
Mexico is getting free universal health care. Mexico's first female president, Claudia Sheinbaum, has announced a plan to establish universal health care across Mexico, aiming to guarantee free medical services for the entire population. But how are they going to pay for it? We could afford it in the US, but I don't know. The Iran war that has lasted over a month is about to cost us $50 billion. Or maybe the fact that Trump wants to up our defense budget next year by $200 billion. Or the tax breaks to billionaires in the big, beautiful bill, increasing our national deficit by an estimated $1.5 trillion. America could afford this too, but we would much rather have a forever war and an almighty ruling class. Back to Mexico. Their healthcare system is different, and right now it's really fragmented. Different groups like corporate workers, government employees, and uninsured citizens often rely on separate systems with uneven access and quality. What people don't know about Mexico is there's a very defined class system there that honestly operates across economically and racially. Yes, there is prejudice in Mexico. This has all led to gaps in coverage, long wait times, and major disparities depending on where you live or work. But what about the quality of healthcare and long wait times? Brother, I live in a border town, and you have no clue how many people cross the border every day to receive better and more affordable health care than the U.S.'s in a timely manner. Sheinbaum's plan is to unify and expand these services into a more centralized system, building on existing public healthcare programs, basically cutting cost and the wasted time and money that goes into a bureaucracy. The goal is simple on paper. Anyone in Mexico should be able to walk into a public hospital and receive care without worrying about the cost. The fact is, pulling this off is much more complicated than it sounds. It would require significant funding, infrastructure upgrades, and coordination across federal and local governments, which isn't easy. Also, pharmaceutical as well as insurance companies will lobby and bribe political support to stall and ruin this policy, just like they did with Obamacare. Critics are already questioning whether the system can handle the increased demand without sacrificing quality, while supporters argue that is a long overdue step towards equality amongst the Mexican people. If it works, Mexico could join a growing list of countries offering universal healthcare. Do you think that Mexico can make universal healthcare work, or will it be a big failure?
Say, I just feel like politicians in America, their whole big thing is this. All right, bro, just continue to brainwash them and distract them from the things that's really important and keep them all divided and fighting. Because if they all get on one accord, we gonna be fucked. That's what it is, dog. That's what it boils down to, bro.